Hey, how are you? I'm Roberta Colasino. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, and I am coming to you tonight with day 2 of the 12 Days of Christmas 2024. So last night I showed you a kit product, and I am going to show you another kit product tonight, and then we'll be done with the kit products and we'll be on to the real handmade from scratch type of gifts. But I needed to get those 2 kit products out of the way. Excuse me for poor eye contact. I'm just checking here on my computer to make sure I am live where I'm supposed to be. I needed to get those out of the way because, to be honest with you, if I didn't, and then someone really wanted to buy one, they wouldn't have had the time that they might have needed to work on those projects, unless they were planning on giving them as gifts, in which case they should have enough time. Typically, orders placed through Stampin' Up!, whether they're placed by me directly or through the company, it doesn't matter, they take about 2 weeks. And again, there seem to be some supply chain shortages and other delays that just seem to have happened since COVID and just never went away. I'm not quite sure what that's all about, to be honest with you. I'm just moving a few things here. So anyway, really quickly, I wanted to show you the product that I demonstrated last night and just show you quickly what I did with that. So just so you can kind of see one possible use for it. I don't know, I'm going to turn the camera down, but I don't know if the camera will be able to get this whole thing in, so I'll move it around a little bit if necessary so that you can see it. Okay, so here we go. Again, there's just always adjustments, never fails. Something needs to be adjusted. And I forgot to turn a light on, so let's do that. That will help a little bit. There we go, some better lighting. And here it is. So this is, and I didn't think to measure it yesterday. It holds a piece of 12 by 12 paper. So obviously it's slightly larger than 12 by 12. So it is, let's see, well, it says that the frame is 12 by 12, and I guess that makes sense because when I put the paper in last night, it wasn't in completely. I was just sort of setting it on top so that you could see it. And by the way, the magnets did work better without going through 2 sheets of paper and without trying to go through paper that wasn't attached properly. So the magnets definitely worked better. So what I did with it was I took one of those tags that I showed you that you punched out, or that were, sorry, they did not punch out, they were a sticker. Because I wanted to reuse it and didn't want it to stick down, what I did was I put, let me just get those out of the way for a second, I put a Velcro dot right there in the corner. And I kind of made up my mind that at least until I changed the paper, that would be where I would put something like this, or a quote or something like that would be in this upper left-hand corner, and I don't mind using other dots to make that work. So I put that there, and then because it is still technically fall, I just glued together a cluster of leaves, and these are something that I stamped and die cut, and I just glued together a cluster of those, and I kind of stuck them behind that without using any adhesive. Then here, I asked Google, and Google told me that it was 34 days until Christmas, so I put that there. You saw me do that last night. And then the little envelope that I had, I just put some of those cards in that I showed you so that I could pull one out as needed to write something on if I wanted to. It could also be a good place for a shopping list. There's one clip that I didn't use yet, but I didn't want to lose it, so I stuck it there. And then I decided the best way to use these 2 pockets was to put them on towards the bottom so that whether the magnet was strong enough to hold them up or not, it didn't matter because they would support on the bottom. So one of them has a lined post-it pad, and one of them has a regular kind of, what are these, 3x3 I think, post-it pad with a reminder that I could rip off and stick on here about a doctor's appointment. So I chose to do mine in the grays, to use the gray side of these, even though there was another option. This one is kind of like a peachy pink on the inside, and this one is sort of a, I think I call it a mint green on the inside, and I could have constructed them the other way. I also thought, and I didn't think to do it before I glued them, that I should have taken one of these and outlined it, traced it and made myself a template so that I could create more of this type of pocket. You could make a pocket easily. It doesn't have to look like this one, but I thought that might be a good idea. So at some point I'll probably take one of these apart as carefully as I can and do that tracing. Unless the directions have one that's the right size that I might be able to trace. I suspect it must be smaller though, but I'll have to check. So that's just one way that you could use this board, and I wanted to share that with you. And again, for anyone interested, this is the Celebrate Today Magnet Board Kit. This is an online only item, so you will not find it in one of our catalogs even if you have one. And it's item number 159335, and it's $25, which I think is a pretty reasonable price. And you can order that by going to www.rcolosino.stampinup.net. All right, so that's that. And just in case you weren't watching last night, it has a back like kind of a typical picture frame. So it's got the little thing that you would hang it on, whether you hang it on a hook or a nail. And it's got the little, I don't know what these things are called, but the little tabs that you just bend back so that you can change the paper. And it's probably not meant to be flipped upside down. So things are pretty sturdy, but it's not meant to be flipped upside down. So there we go. So I think that's very pretty, and I will be hanging that on my wall shortly. Oops. Yeah, I wanted that to be loose. I didn't want it to, I didn't want to glue things on there yet. Oops. So there we go. So the next day 2 of the 12 Days of Christmas is today. And like I showed you last night on the calendar, we will be here. I say we, my mother would ask me if I had a mouse in my pocket. So we did yesterday, we're doing today, and then we will be here for 10 more days, excluding Thanksgiving, because I'm guessing most people don't want to be watching crafting videos on Thanksgiving. And if you're anything like me, you're barely conscious during Thanksgiving. If you should place an order during this month, the entire month of November, what's left of it, please use this host code right here. And that host code, and make sure that you're shopping with me, and use this host code. And that host code will just ensure that if your order is over $150, you will get some rewards no matter what. If your order is under $150, then I get the rewards, and I use those so that I can replenish supplies and sometimes have little prizes that I give away and so on. So this is what our typical kits look like. The box that we had last night that had the magnet board in it was obviously much larger. So this is the typical size, and by the way, they're a very good, very sturdy box. And I've never ordered nothing but a kit, so I don't know if they mail just the box if you order a kit and nothing else, because typically I place a fairly large order, and so everything comes in a larger box. So I also did not open this one so that you could see. So this is what a kit comes like. These were little extra pieces, and everything else is sort of shrink wrapped in a package like that. Very difficult to lose anything because of the way it's packaged. Everything's packaged really well. And you'll see, I wish I had them on my desk to show you, but if you've ever seen the typical clips that come with, or that you can buy, clips, clothespins like this that come with craft kits, or that you can buy at, Michael's or Joann's or other craft stores, Hobby Lobby, they're usually pretty flimsy, and these absolutely are not even close to flimsy. They're almost like a regular clothespin. The width, I think, is exactly the same as a regular clothespin. I bet I can prove that point in a minute. I always have a clothespin or two. This one actually looks slightly wider than the clothespin that I have here, which is probably an antique clothespin. It's pretty old. And they're pretty sturdy, for sure. So not only will they last for this purpose, but will probably serve you very well for other similar purposes in the future. So you would definitely want to save those. So there's a bunch of them. You could paint them. You could, let me see if I can find one. I don't know if I have one up here anymore. No, I do a thing where I take my clothespins, and by the way, this is just a quick, another idea for an easy gift. I like to use these for chip, bags, chip clips, because I think they're better than those big clunky ones that you get in the stores that are meant for that purpose. But just to pretty them up a little bit, I take a little bit of my Designer Series paper and some Mod Podge, and I cover it with the colored paper or the pattern paper just to make it prettier. And I have also been known to put a magnet on the back so that I can hang things off the refrigerator, and I will give those to people as gifts, and I have sold those at craft shows, and my students used to sell those when we did that kind of thing together in school. So everything, like I said, is kind of in this shrink wrapped package. I don't like to use my really good scissors to get these open, so I don't use them, and then it just takes a little bit longer. I don't know if any of you are sewers, or if your parents were sewers, your moms, you will probably recall that if you ever dared to use your mom's fabric scissors on paper, you probably caught it from her. You probably got yelled at. So it's got some dimensionals in here, which they think is obviously as many as you would need. And then you've got all of the envelopes, and they come in 2 different patterns. All right, and the envelopes are just for your information. Sorry, that was a big reach. Just for your information, the envelopes are pre-scored so that they can be closed, but a lot of people don't close them. It depends on how you're displaying it. So let's see, it is 3 by 4, which is kind of your typical. It's a little bit smaller than a credit card or a debit card, and I'm sure that is done on purpose so that you can fit one of those in there. All right, and one is kind of a, what would I call that? A muslin, a cheesecloth kind of look to it. And then this one just has kind of a little pretty leaf design, but they're both very neutral in color. It comes with 2 spools of twine. Now our usual spools of twine come with, I believe it is like 10 yards. These may not come with 10 yards because they probably know you don't need 10 yards, but I can't say that for a fact. The instruction sheets might actually tell us what they come with. One looks like it's cherry cobbler, which is a dark red. Okay, so this one is the braided twine, which is beautiful. I love this. We've had it in like a basic beige color before. We've had it in mossy meadow before. Every time they have it, I buy it up because I really like it. It's just very pretty to work with. And then we've got the numbers, and the numbers are all slightly different, which I think is kind of cool too. They're not identical. We also have a page of glue dots here, and one of them has gone rogue and has affixed itself to the thing here. These are kind of cool glue dots. They're a little bit, well, I don't want to say they're a little bit trickier to use. Actually, I think this is just the backing to one of the glue dots, although, no, I don't see one that's missing. Anyway, you've definitely got enough. Most people who get these kits or our paper pumpkin kits will say that they have enough to do the project that is in the kit as well as future projects. So we'll get rid of all the plastic wrapping because I don't anticipate needing that for anything. And so you've got some numbers that look like tree slices. And then you've got some of the numbers that look like planks of wood. And then some of the numbers are gold foil, and some are shaped like a banner, and some are smaller. You've got 2 sets of those. You have these beautiful sequins, but they're not flat. They have some texture to them. They're almost like a little bowl, sequin that's like shaped like a little bowl, and that looks like it might be cherry cobbler. It definitely matches that. And then you have bows, and these are not stickers. They just punch out. So you've got bows, and then you've got leaves, and they seem to come in clusters of 3, and those punch out. And then you've got your poinsettias, and those punch out. And here we've got some what looks like holly leaves, and they punch out, and it looks like you've got a cluster of 2 leaves, and then the berries punch out, and I'm guessing that the berries then get put on top of that. So very cool. Then you've got this sort of leafy, wreathy, whatever you want to call it. Almost looks doily-like before you punch it out. And then you've got some more kind of fine filigree leaves. These seem to be in maybe mossy meadow and old olive. Those are Stampin' Up! Colors if you're not familiar. So there's quite a few of those. And I'm guessing because those, or at least these, are a background piece or intended to be a background piece. Okay, and yeah, so there's a bunch of those. So probably enough for one for every day. Also, all of our kits and our cardstock as well come with this cardboard. If you're a crafter, don't throw this out. This is some pretty heavy duty cardboard, and it could be used for many things, so never toss the cardboard. That's just me, but I am a bit of a craft hoarder, so you make your own decision. And then here we are with the directions. So these directions also come in different languages, like we saw last night, but the directions themselves are pretty self-explanatory. So on this sheet right here, they're just showing you everything that came in the kit, which I just went over with you. All right, it says supplies for 25 envelopes. And then, like, I'm guessing that there will be leftover things. There are probably only the exact amount of numbers, just because you don't need any more extra numbers. All right, and then they show you some things that you could do. So one way to do that would be to line it up kind of like a clothesline. So every day you take off another one. In this case, I don't know why there's a gap there. I'm not really sure. Maybe there's, well, just something you might want to do on your own. And this one starts with 1 and goes to 25. Now, if I were doing this, I don't know. I think I would put the 25 up here and work my way down until there was only the 1 left, telling you that there was 1 day left until Christmas. But that's just the way my brain works, so not necessarily how you have to do things. And you might also choose not to hang them on a clothesline. If you have a fireplace, that would be a great place to put it. But you might choose not to put them. Now, here's the thing, before you go hanging up on me, is that if you're saying to yourself right now, I don't have any kids, I don't have any reason to do a Christmas countdown, I'm not going to use this, goodbye. Don't say goodbye just yet, because there are multiple other things that you can do with these things besides Christmas countdown. All right, so that's kind of like an Advent thing, and it's great if you celebrate Christmas. It's great if you have kids, although I think adults could have fun with it too, to be honest with you. But anyway, that's how it's meant to be used. And so it's meant for you, and they are literally showing you here the different numbers and the different elements and how you put them together. They're not taking you through every single one, but they are telling you, like here, if you wanted to, you know, you're going to use all of these things and then these things. And what a lot of people do that they find makes it easier for them is that they will just punch everything out when they first get started so that they've got piles. And if I were doing this, to be honest with you, I'm not sure that I would do this on my craft desk. I think I might very likely do it at my kitchen table or my dining room table, just because, I don't know about you, but my kitchen table has a whole lot more room. All right, the other thing is that depending on, again, how your brain works, if you're a little OCD, you might not want to put 2 of the same color together, so you might want to do like every other one. And again, this is only if you're using them in a way that they're going to be in a row. Right? And even if you pop all these out and don't use them, I don't think it matters, because you can put them in a little baggie or something. In fact, you can put them in the bag that the clips comes in, or just any old Ziploc bag that you have in the house. So we're going to punch all of these things out so that we're ready to get working as soon as we're done. And what I'm going to show you are some alternative ways to use these. And I'll be honest, I got called away from the house today and was gone longer than I thought I was going to be. Then I realized I had left my computer mouse someplace else on Monday night when I had a meeting, and I went looking for it there. And so I didn't have time to prepare some of the things, but I think it might be kind of cool for you to see how I'm going to do that. And I'll try not to take too much time doing that. So these things can be used to make greeting cards. They can be used to make gift tags. They can be used to make a whole bunch of things, really. And then I also started looking for ideas for things to put in them. So some Advent calendar type things are like boxes, and they may not be big boxes. In fact, sometimes they're, so this is a box that I made to hold my glue bottle, but it's a 2-inch by 2-inch box, and sometimes Advent boxes come in like a thing with drawers, but you could fit a lot more candy in there probably than you could fit in an envelope.
But I started to think not everybody wants candy. Okay, maybe they want it, but maybe not everybody should have it or knows they shouldn't have it. So I started looking up online and using my own thought processes to come up with ways or things to put in an advent calendar as little gifts. And I thought gifts don't always necessarily have to be something tangible either. So that was when I came up with some of the thoughts of things that I used to do when I was teaching with kids for like Mother's Day and Father's Day, where they did something like, a certificate to do the dishes one night, or a certificate to, serve mom breakfast in bed, or whatever it might be. So I came up with some of those ideas. I looked some up online. And of course I looked at some of the typical ones, like some type of candy or some type of small toy or whatever. And if you guys have any ideas for things that you put into an advent calendar, or if you're doing Hanukkah and you do small presents every night of the 8 nights of Hanukkah, maybe you've got some ideas for that can be used the same way. I'm always looking for kind of unique and fun ideas for gifts. And to be honest, sometimes I'm looking for not too expensive ideas for gifts too, because, maybe you want to spend the majority of your money purchasing things for family members and close friends, and want to get something cute and maybe kind of meaningful for office friends, but you just don't want to break the bank doing that. So I've got those now, the leaf clusters. Trying to make sure that I'm in camera so you can see everything I'm doing. Sometimes I do get out of the camera range and I don't realize it until I look up and see it. Alright, I do like that these are separate and can be glued on, and the reason I like that is because it adds more dimension to what you're doing. So I'm sure they absolutely could have printed these sleeves with the berries on them, but I believe that's probably why they did not. And that's where using our dimensionals comes in handy, is that instead of just gluing them on, or instead of gluing all of them on, some of them can be popped up with dimensionals so that they have some dimension. I was a minute or two late tonight because I suddenly realized I had the television on and the remote is not working, so I have to use the Roku app on my phone. So I had to get off of the Facebook page and go to the Roku remote and tell it, because it's an older remote so it doesn't have a power button, so I had to verbally tell it to turn the TV off. Technology is just a wonderful thing, isn't it? So these are the pretty poinsettias. I think it would be nice if they had some white ones. I've always liked white poinsettias. But they didn't, so that's okay. Lost my berries. There we go. All right, so I could have done this ahead of time and saved a little time, but on the other hand, I think it's nice for you to see the process, and you can see that these things are not ripping, they're not difficult to get out at all. Okay, where's 25? I'd like to start with 25 and have that be on the bottom. And I also like the way they didn't put this, as 25, 24, 23, 22. They're not in order, and I like that as well because I like things that are kind of staggered. If you're using it, of course, then I have to find the different numbers. If you're using it as an Advent thing or a Christmas countdown, then you don't want them to be, you want them to be in order, is what I'm trying to say. If you're not using them for that, then you don't care, and you may not use the numbers at all. Or maybe you don't want to get stuck with the whole thing and you just want to say that you're going to do like 10 days until Christmas or 5 days until Christmas. Maybe you're one of those people who kind of gets tired of hearing about Christmas every single day for weeks, if not months on end. And it does seem that the stores in particular seem to start Christmas earlier and earlier every year. So you can see I'm having to kind of go back and forth here between the different styles to get the numbers in order, and I'm going backwards, which maybe I shouldn't have done, but all right, 19, 18, 17, 16. I am now kind of, to be honest with you, wishing that I had gotten 2 of these kits so that I could use one for Christmas countdown. And no, I don't have any small children anymore, and I don't have any grandchildren yet, but I still think it might be a fun thing to do. Maybe I could do it with the cats. Yes, I know the cats don't know. They don't know numbers. Okay, so now we're jumping over to this one. I've got 12, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. This is like one of those games they recommend for senior citizens to keep their brains sharp. 8, 'It is easier to do this not punching them all out, but leaving them in here. Oh, there's that missing glue dot. It's stuck onto this. And I am going to want to get that off of here so this doesn't start sticking to other things. There we go. 7. 6. This way I can at least see it all laid out in front of me. 5, 4. This must be 3. Yep, 3. 2. And 1. Shoot, okay. So now, again, if you're using this the way they intended it to be used, or one of the suggested uses, where you're going to hang it up like on a clothesline, then they are wanting you to use the envelope as the backdrop, and you're going to take it off the clothespin. So honestly, I don't know if it matters if you put the envelope this way or this way, other than the fact that it's kind of prettier to see the scalloping. But then you have to be careful if you're gluing things on, unless you're really just using the clothespins to hold the whole thing on, which is kind of an interesting idea, because then when you're done using it for this year, you've got all of this stuff 100% available to use for you to use as you wish, let's say in the next year. So that's kind of an interesting concept. I hadn't really thought about that. So they're doing every one just a little bit different. Not all of them has the circle, although it certainly looks like they're giving you close to enough circles. So you could just pinch that, and as long as the flower is up high enough, you don't even have to glue that on. And you could just take this off, or whoever could take it off, and they could open it up and then just hand you these things to put in a bag. That's, it's a thought, it's a possibility. And then, of course, you'd want to get the number 1 on there. So now in this case, I feel like the number 1, okay, so what they did in some cases, depending on what they were using, is that maybe they would put the number 1 here on one of the round ones, and maybe they would have just a little bit of greenery hanging off the edge, or maybe they would have this hanging down, or maybe they're just leaving that like this, like it is, and possibly using a couple of the dots, maybe on the number 1 or something like that. So that's a possibility. So then if they're going to be next to each other, again, you might want to be alternating. So these are pre-scored for you. So now we have day number 2, and I'm not going to use one of those circles. So maybe for day number 2, I'm going to have I am going to glue this on. I think it makes sense just to get that done. So I'm just going to take a little dot of glue. You truly don't need much. And I'm going to glue, as soon as I can pick them up, my cluster of 3 berries right in place there. And that glue dries pretty darn fast. So maybe I'll put that a little bit closer to the top. Maybe even overlapping a little bit. And then that one's ready to go. Unless you want to embellish it much more, which you certainly can. Some of these seem to be quite highly embellished. I notice that some of them... Okay, so another reason, now I see, this is why directions are nice and samples are nice. So they have all this space here above the number 2, and I really wasn't paying attention to that. So instead of putting the number 2 on top of this, let's put this on top of the number 2, so that more of those leaves show. And then you're just clipping it on, so that's number 2. Then number 3 is kind of a long thing. Let's see. So maybe it's the same kind of a thing. Maybe number 3 can go like this, and then something like this could go near it. And maybe, maybe the bow could go near it. So, and that could hang over the side, and that probably wouldn't matter. So again, you know, I'm kind of thinking at some point you might have to start using some glue to hold some of these things together. But if you truly wanted to avoid using the glue so that you could save all of these things to use for something else, I think you could get away with avoiding the glue and just use the clips, with the understanding that it's going to fall apart when your person takes the clip off. Okay, so that's if we're using it in that way. I'm going to go ahead and put all of these on just so that that's done and out of my way. And when you glue things, even though this glue does dry super fast, sometimes you can take a little clip like that, or even those tiny cheap ones that you can get at the Dollar Tree, and just use them to hold on what you've glued until you're sure that it's completely dry. If you don't use a lot of glue, it dries faster, and you really don't need a lot of it. It's very strong glue. So if you're one of those people who thinks you've got to put a ton of glue on there, you honestly don't, and your projects will dry much faster. Okay, what have I got? 2 more, 3 more, 2 more. All right, so now we're starting to think, okay, some of us do not want to do the whole Advent Christmas countdown thing, so what are the other options? So one option is to use some of these things for Christmas tags. Now, if you were not going to use them for Christmas countdown and you didn't care about these envelopes at all, you could conceivably just turn these envelopes themselves into tags. You could even cut them up and turn them into tags. I would rather not do that because I kind of haven't made up my mind yet how I'm going to use all this stuff. So I don't think I want to do that, but I want to show you all the possibilities. So typically I have little bins by my side here that are full of ready-made tags ready to go, but I have used them all recently on cards and other things, and so I did not have any ready, and I didn't realize I didn't have any ready. So this right here is our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and basically what it is it's a die cutting and embossing machine. Ours is nice as opposed to some other brands because it does fold up, which is kind of cool. And basically it comes with everything that you need to do what I just mentioned, cutting and embossing. This is a cutting plate, and it is nasty looking, and it is and it will be, and that's okay. That part of the machine, these two things are considered to be consumables. So every once in a while you do have to replace them. But I have what I call a cut plate, and then I have what I call a do not cut plate. And occasionally the do not cut plate gets used. But what happens is now when I buy a set of 2 new plates, I will get rid of this one completely, use this one for my cut plate, and have a brand new one to go on the top. So I'm not having to trade out every single, or both pieces every single time. I hope that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. Okay. So then I've got some basic white cardstock here, and I could use colored as well. And I've got some different kinds of tags. These are actually circles, but there's no rule that says tags have to look like tags. You know what I mean? Like price tags in the store. So I like to make tags using many different shapes and sizes and whatnot, especially sometimes you're giving somebody a very small gift, so maybe you want a small tag. The only problem is that most of those decorations are kind of big for a small tag, so I don't know if that would work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this kind of sloppy like with a pair of scissors instead of using a paper cutter. I'm just going to cut basically the width of that tag, which is the largest one. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not cutting a straight line, and I'm not worrying about it too much. And I'm going to put that down there. And then I'm going to grab one of these kind of rectangular ones, and I'm going to put that in there. If I can, I'll put it at a little angle. It's just better for the machine that way. I won't get into all the details about that right now. And then we're going to put this plate on top of it, make sure that those don't move off of the paper, and just crank it and run it through. And because my plates are warped, because I don't like to replace them until it becomes an emergency, it's a little bit harder for me to crank it. When the plates are not warped, it's not hard to crank it at all. So I'm not going to do a bunch of these, but I want to not have to come back and do this again in 5 minutes. So I've got those 2. And then this paper is scrap paper now. And then I'll get out those round ones. So these are called the Nested Essentials dies. And there is information on purchasing those on there. I didn't do the same for all of them. Sometimes I think of it and sometimes I don't. This is called the Spotlight on Nature dies. And I have not used these nearly enough. And I'm truly hoping that they carry over to the next catalog. It's more than one set of dies. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on one side and 6 on the other side, but they all have slightly different patterns. So I'm going to grab this one, which is pretty large, and I'm going to do the same, as soon as I find my scissors, there we go, the same sloppy cutting that I did before. Not the best way to cut anything. All right, so this has an actual cutting plate. You barely see it, but a cutting surface. So the cutting surface goes down. And then I'm going to flip it over, and well, maybe I won't flip it over because I like this design too, so I'll do that. And then maybe just for the heck of it, just because there'll be room, I'll cut out one of these so I have it. Well, and I'll cut out this tiny one too, just so I have it. So it's one of those things where as long as I'm doing this, I might as well just do a bunch. I want to move that over. It needs to be on the paper. And it's best if they're not touching each other. And then I'm going to put that down and I press on it and hold it with my fingers just to make sure that those dies don't slip. There we go. That noise, don't let that noise scare you. It just does that. They all do that. Every one of the machines. I've had multiple brands. We used to carry a different brand before we started making our own, and they all do that. It's terrifying the first time it happens when you've just gotten the brand new machine and your first thought is, oh my God, I broke it. But it's not broken. It's just something that it does. Okay, so we'll just do these 4 just as kind of a look and see how it works kind of thing. And I hate it when I lose a die, so I'm going to take an extra minute, maybe not necessarily to put them all away, but to make sure that they're all like that. One of them just fell on the floor. And I've been really lucky in that sometimes they fall right in the garbage. So I was being a little sarcastic there when I said lucky. And then I don't realize that they've fallen in the garbage, and I put the garbage out. I've had that happen.
Okay, I can see the one that's on the floor, so I'm just going to leave it there because I know where it is. And I do put them on magnets, which keeps them safe a little bit longer, usually. Okay, and then this folds up and it makes a loud noise and it's hard to keep it quiet. Sorry. So, if you were wanting to use these as gift tags, and you're just not into the whole Christmas countdown thing, then these are other options. And we have plenty of other tags as well. This is just like one sample of a tag. So you could put that on there, and then you could possibly put this coming off the side because it's a tag. You could have a couple of options. You could leave enough of this open that you could write, you know, to mom from whoever, or you could write that on the back. You could just take a small hole punch. I have several different sizes here, and look where they are. They're laying where I can't even reach them. Okay, I'm just going to take a regular hole punch, but I have smaller ones. They make smaller ones so that you're not making a big gigundo hole. And then I had some red ribbon. Here we go. I could just take some red ribbon, and these are ribbon or fabric scissors, so I never use these on paper, and I never use paper scissors on ribbon because it really does ruin them over time. I'm not just kidding about that. All right, so let's see. I like to make a little angle cut there when I put that through. I might not have left myself enough room. It depends on how I want to do it. So what I do is I put that through. I always do it backwards the first time. And then I kind of put my finger in the hole here in the opening, and then I push those through and then very gently tighten it. That's one way to do it. You can tie it as well. Use a little bit more ribbon this way, and then don't ever try to pull it too tight because you'll, you know, it's just paper, you'll rip it. So I don't worry about that too much. And then you could glue these on, and now you have a Christmas tag. And how pretty is that going to look on a gift compared to the ones that we typically buy at the dollar store that come on a sheet and you just peel them, you know, off and stick them. So that would make a very pretty gift tag. All right, and then for a round one, I don't think I'd want to use, well, I don't know, you could. It would look pretty with a round one. But just to show you something else besides those, I could have the poinsettia in the center, and a little bit of this greenery I think would be needed, would be in order. Come on. Yeah, so they're very delicate, so you do want to play with them carefully. So that could go underneath, and again, you could be writing on the back, or you could be just writing, and you don't have to necessarily put something like this on or punch a hole either. You really could get away with just gluing it on and then taping your tag to the package. Now, my kids have learned, and it's not because I tell them that they have to do this, but they don't throw any of this stuff away. They either leave it behind at my house so I can use it again, and I'm not going to use it for them again because I don't want to give them the same gift tags year after year. So I don't do that typically. But if I can, you know, get rid of the handwriting and do something different, then I might use it for somebody else. All right, so here I think I want more than one of these. And you know, if you wanted the white side, you could turn it over, especially if you were using colored paper down here. Okay, and then you've got another tag that you could be using. So that's two tags. And then we have two more. This is one more like the typical tag. And how about if we use some, where is this hair coming from? This is my hair, not cat hair. Poinsettia, or no, what do you call that? Oh my goodness, holly leaves, and then maybe a bow coming off the bottom, and then you could write your to and from there, any way you want. And then the other thing we could do is, let's say you put one of these on here. All right, just as an example, if you don't care about the numbers at all, what if you put one of these on here and then put something like the poinsettia over the number because you just don't care about the number, and then had one of these popping out from behind. And that gives you another really pretty tag to put on a gift. And people don't expect to find beautiful tags like this on a gift. They just don't. You could put this one here,
and you could put the bow over it. It's not quite big enough to cover up the 4, but you get the idea. If you had something else, you could cover that up and put the bow over it. So another thing that you could do, if you're not into the Christmas countdown thing, would be to make these pretty tags. All right? And I will play around with that and make some more at some point. So that's how that could go. And then, of course, the other thing that you could definitely do, and what I wanted to point out to you too, is that sometimes, now that I took it apart, but I will anyway, let's see, do I have any of the right color red? Okay, so I've got a red here, and then I've got the white, and I'll pull out my trimmer real quick. And what I want to do to make a typical, what we call an A2 card, is I'm going to score this on the 8.5 side of the paper at 4 1/4, because 4 1/4 is half of 8.5. I'm not going to use a blade, I'm going to use a scoring blade, so I'm not cutting. Then I'm going to turn it around to the 11-inch side, and I'm going to cut it in half at 5 1/2. That's the dark blade there. That's the cutting blade. And now I have a 5 1/2 by 4 1/2 inch card base. And that's what's called an A2 card. I don't know who comes up with those names or numbers. It's out of my pay grade. So then I want a layer of red. So I want my red layer to be 4. After a while, these measurements just pop into your head and you actually know what you're doing 90% of the time. 4 by 5 1/4. And the reason I turned that around is because there's a little bit of a ragged edge there, and I want to cut that off because I don't want to have that ragged edge. So now I have a layer for my card, and I can put that away, and I can get my bone folder out and just kind of tighten that up a little bit so that it's a nice sharp crease. And now I can glue this down. So when your edges come out a little rough, it typically means that you need a new blade in your cutter. But if you want to save your blade a little bit longer, let me show you. I've got my tools here. I'm just going to take a nail file. This is something that a friend of mine got. She does nails. I don't know if she does them anymore, but she used to. And so she orders me packages of these salon type nail files for acrylic nails. And there's a rough side and a smoother side. And you just run it across the paper, and that solves the problem of any ragged edges. So now I'm going to glue that on. And so we're leaving a little bit of a white trim. This is my trick for straightening it out when it's not straight. I just kind of bend it back and forth and push it in the direction I want it to go in. And it seems to work pretty well. So now we've got that card base. And what if we were to take this big circle again? And what if we were to start putting things on there like this? Now with a card, you have to make sure it can hang over the edge of your focal point, but it can't hang over the edge of the card, because if it does, well, it's not going to fit in your envelope. Okay? And maybe I could even use one of these, even though I know holly leaves don't go with poinsettias, but you know, just, this is crafting. This is not science. It's not botany. So it doesn't have to be correct. It just has to be pretty. All right, and if you didn't like that, if you were a botanist and said, no way, that's not going to work, then I'm going to look for another one of these, but this time I might look for one that's either a lighter green or a darker green, just so that I have some contrast. I think this one is darker, maybe not. Okay, so here we go. I have a light one and a darker one. And the other thing that I've been known to do, but I'm not going to do it with these right now, is I've been known to just snip pieces of this off to make it the way I want it, and then use the little pieces instead of using just the big pieces. But today I don't want to do that. So now I have a Christmas card. And all I need is my stamp like I used last night, and I can stamp Merry Christmas out here, or I can stamp Merry Christmas inside. I can certainly take one of these lovely gems, and I will do that because I can always use something with a gem on it. I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to pull it a little bit out of the package. And I'm going to take this thing called a Take Your Pick tool that has a putty end on it. So it's just kind of little, like Play-Doh. And I'm just going to push that off of there. It's adhesive on the back. And I'm just going to push it down there. So you don't have to use your fingers. As a friend of mine once said, if you have fingers that are shaped like sausages, it's hard for you to do things like that. She didn't always say the kindest things, but it's a reality. And I don't have, sometimes I have fingernails, sometimes I don't have fingernails. So there you go. So now you've got a card, and you could use all of this stuff to make Christmas cards. And then, heck, you could use this to hang your stockings on the laundry line, or for a different craft or whatever. So you've got the possibility of using it for tags, you've got the possibility of using it for the Christmas countdown, and you've got the possibility of using it for cards, or some combination thereof. All right, nothing says that you have to do just one thing. And certainly, what did I say this kit cost? Where's that piece of paper? Where's that piece of paper? Oh, here we go. This kit costs $19, which again is not a lot. Now there's some shipping and there's some tax included, but that's not a lot really. So if you wanted to, like I said, I wish I had ordered two, and I might yet order another one because it would still get here in time for Christmas, and then I don't have to make a decision about how to use it. I can use it in all three ways, or at least two of the three ways. All right, so those are options. So just to get back to, let me clean this up a little bit. All right, so this is called the Rustic Christmas Countdown Kit. And, oh, it's an alarm. I don't know why I had an alarm set. Hey, Karen. Hey, Dawn. How are you? Thanks for joining. If you're joining, I really appreciate it if you just say hello and say where you're watching from or whatever. I can see on my camera when someone is watching, whether they watch for a few minutes or the whole time, but it doesn't always show up on the screen because they're not saying anything. And it really does help if people say a little something, because otherwise Facebook thinks you don't like me at all. All right, so just kind of clean up that mess there. I love this kit. I like everything about it. And everything, none of this stuff is flimsy. It's all very sturdy. These you have to watch out for because they will get, caught up in each other. But that's avoidable. So I wanted to get back to the whole concept of what if you are using it as a Christmas countdown thing. So some of the ideas that I came up with were gift cards, which I guess is an obvious, cash, which is an obvious too, I guess, some type of a small toy, a deck of cards, small jewelry. My mind always goes to things like diamond rings or diamond earrings, but it's not for everybody. Favorite candy bar, because a typical, I think like a Twix bar would fit in here. Certainly a Hershey's bar would fit in here, but it would be standing up over. Ghirardelli squares would fit in here quite nicely. Peppermint patties, things like that. Movie or show tickets. So nowadays you can buy movie tickets online and you can print them out. So maybe that, or you can go to the theater and buy them. Lottery tickets, I think, are always nice for people, or the scratch-off tickets. And what I call promise cards for things like dinners. So I made up a few. Like I said, I used to do this with my students. So depending on your audience, if you're using the countdown for children or adults, 1 week with no chores, I suppose, could apply to husbands or children. One dinner out with very short notice just because you don't feel like cooking. So you come home from work and it's 5 o'clock and you say, I'm not cooking dinner tonight, let's go out. And the other party doesn't argue with you. At least one time they just say, okay, fine, we're going out to dinner. Movie night at home with popcorn, candy, and soda. A trip to the toy store with a $25 limit or whatever your limit is. A sleepover with your friends, limit of 5, again, depending on how brave you are, complete with a pizza dinner and some junk food. An after-school ice cream sundae party with friends, with 5 of your friends. You could also put in sequins or other bling. So I was pretty sure that these would fit. These are old retired ladybugs that I just have to make myself use on cards because they're just too stinking cute. But I'm pretty sure, or was pretty sure, that these would fit. Ooh, just barely, but yeah, they kind of fit. But you could put them in a Ziploc bag and put them in there. So you could give someone some bling if you have someone in your friends or family who is a crafter. I thought about things like washi tape, and I didn't have time to go find like an actual nice pretty roll of washi tape, but you could put a couple of rolls of washi tape in here. Some of them are thinner than others. This one is like 1 inch, so it's kind of fat. Again, if you have crafting friends, you could put in something like glue dots. Those barely fit in here too. So it's really got to be, something semi-small to fit in here, I guess. But you could use your imagination, things like that. So those are just some ideas that I had that you could, print off. I just printed this off using Microsoft Word, and these are text boxes in Microsoft Word. And then in text boxes, you can decide on what type of an outline you want and what color and what design. And so I just did that kind of a thing. And then I could just take my scissors that I've lost again. Well, I found the top to one pair of scissors. All right. So you could just take one of these things and cut it out, either straight or just a little wonky, like if it's wonky. Nothing fancy, just give it a little wiggly cut. And like I said, no, I accidentally cut the corner of that one, so not a big deal. Again, I don't think kids are going to mind. Now I know that sometimes my kids would give us certificates for something like this, like breakfast in bed or wash dad's car or whatever, and then when it came time to possibly cash it in, the certificate had mysteriously disappeared. And so the rule in our house was if the ticket or whatever it is disappears, then it's no good. So that would fit in here. You could do that on some pretty paper. You could mount it on some pretty paper. So some of them could just have this type of thing. Definitely some of them could have cash, like I said. So I think your imagination is the limit in terms of what you can come up with that could be done with these in terms of using it as a Christmas countdown. But certainly the other possibilities are endless. So I'll complete some of these projects and take some pictures of them. Now last night I did tell you that if you get on this group, Roberta's Creative Stampers, and do hashtag, and I found out that in 2023 I was really bad about hashtagging 12 Days of Christmas. I added hashtags for things like Christmas gifts, Stampin' Up! Christmas gifts, but I didn't put in 12 Days of Christmas. So I tried to add as many as I could last night. But instead of searching on the whole World Wide Web, if you just search within this group, use a hashtag, Stampin' Up! Gifts, Christmas gifts, 12 Days of Christmas, those things will pop up and you can look at them. And so, because I'm not going to redo those things. So another gift item that I did, which could be for Christmas or not, was this belly band with some obviously fall type stuff. And then inside I had a post-it note holder. So that's what this is, a nice gift for an office person. My business card is in here because I was selling these at a craft fair at one point. So I always wanted the person to be able to contact me. I showed you a bunch of these last night, and these are ones that you will not see me make this year because I try not to duplicate things. This one, I forget what year this was from, but this one I used the Velcro dots, and it's just a very small, I believe it's 4x4 mini album. So for some journaling and pictures of kids, some more pictures here. You can put the pictures anywhere. You could then use like a piece of black or white cardstock if you wanted another mat under there. It's only going to hold, assuming that the pictures are 4x4, 3x3, it's going to hold 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 pictures, okay? And the reason I like a little mini album like this is that when I talk to some of my daughter's friends who have children and I ask them where their pictures are, they say, well, they're on my phone. And that's great, but your grandmother or your mother might like to see some of those pictures. And this is a nice little album. It's what, we used to call a brag book. So you give this to your mother or to your grandmother, and she can show these pictures to her friends. So that's another great gift, but you're not going to see that here because I've already done it. So you're going to have to search in the group to see that. Then I pulled out a basket of some other things. So this was a real nice office gift, by the way. And on Amazon, you can actually buy Christmas-themed nail files, but this kind of nail file, the bigger kind. And this is a nail file holder, and it couldn't possibly be easier to make, decorated for Christmas. And then you've got something that you could put in almost every mailbox, and you could afford to do it at work, especially if you work at a school or wherever you work where they have mailboxes. Okay, so that's another thing that you can search to find. And then some of them were done, and they were not for Christmas at all, so they were decorated differently. I think one of these is shorter because some of the nail files I bought were shorter or longer, so I made them different sizes. This is a Christmas gift box, which is made by gluing 4 circles together. I forget what size the circles are, but the top is just made of the circles. And then it's a gift box. And how pretty is that? And then it's held together on the inside with glue around the edges, but with this little circle on the inside that just kind of holds it all together. All right, so another gift box. This one appears to be about 2.5 by 2.5, I would say. I can't shut the alarm off right now because then I might lose you, so I just have to keep snoozing it. This is made with the Round We Go dies, which create rosettes, which can also be used as a beautiful thing in place of a bow on a package. But they also, if you put a string or a ribbon on them, make an adorable ornament. That's the word I'm looking for. Jeez. Here's another one that could go on a package. Here's one that could go on a package. I think I didn't really complete this one yet. I didn't decorate it. And then there are smaller sizes that you can hang on trees. And and it's a great way to use up if you got a button jar. If you have a button jar, it's a great thing to use your buttons for, or you could use some little bling. In this case, I glued 2 together to make it thicker and to make it really 2-sided. So that's another dandy little gift that you can make for somebody. You can take things that you make with stamp sets, like a stamp set that creates a wreath, and glue one wreath behind the other so that it's a double-sided ornament, and it makes a very sturdy little ornament. It has a decoration on one side and Merry Christmas on the other side. And as I show you these things, I want you to know that if anybody's interested, I would definitely hold a class to make these things. This is another little square gift box, but instead of this one having a take-off lid, it's got a lid that opens. However, I made the lid pretty snug. I also attached a string to it. So you could be giving someone a gift and say to them, okay, everybody go to the tree and find the box with your name on it. And maybe everybody has a different gift in the box. The same, by the way, could be true of these. You could make these little gift card holders, decorate them like we showed, and then you could hang these on the tree, and maybe everybody just gets a $20 bill or whatever, or maybe everybody has something different in their box or in their envelope. Let's see. Here's another one. This is just made from a stamp set, and then it says Season's Greetings, but it has the ribbons so that it can be hung on a tree. This one here, if I'm correct, okay, I think I am correct, and luckily I happen to have this. So this is a little pocket, and it will hold, like, this is Bath & Body Works. This is the 1 ounce restorative cream, but I guess this is kind of their go-to size now. That would make a nice office gift as well. Really pretty, and everybody loves the Bath & Body Works stuff. The other thing that you could probably do with this is put like a lip gloss or a lipstick in it. Maybe you could even put 2 if you have this. I need 3 hands. If you have this tall variety, that's not the typical lipstick size, you could put 1 or 2 of them in there. That would make a nice gift. So this is very easy, and when you look online for these things, you will find the measurements that you need to make all of these things. Here is another one that I don't think I'll be making again this year. In fact, I know I won't. It is a folder that holds greeting cards. So the cards are here, and the envelopes are on this side held together with this belly band. And these cards are our note cards, so they're smaller than an A2 size card. They're just meant to be a note card. And this makes a lovely gift for someone. It just says hello friend on the outside. And then here you've got one that says just a note, one that says thanks, one that says hello friend, another one that says just a note, and they're blank inside except for maybe a little decoration using cardstock. So this is a nice gift for someone who likes to send notes and cards to people, a person who you know likes to send thank you cards. And then you've given them, how many are in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. And that's a very nice gift because then they don't have to buy cards, and it comes in this pretty container. And what I've said to some people when I give them something like this as a gift is, don't throw out the box or the package or whatever it is, because when it's empty, I'll refill it for you. So my brother-in-law likes sending my cards. He gets cards from me. He doesn't buy them. I give them to him. And I give them to him in a box, and I tell him when the box is empty or when you've only got 3 cards left, let me know and I'll get you a refill. So, every couple of months or whatever it is, he needs a refill on it. All right, I'm not tying that. My fingers are not working tonight. So that's another nice thing. Here is another gift box. This one is a slider. Is this the slider? I think it's a slider. Kind of like a, I don't know where you came from. Oh, yeah, you don't belong here. Okay, well, it's got Velcro, so maybe it wasn't meant to slide. I don't know. Oh, no, it wasn't. This is all glued in. Glad I didn't try to force that. So it opens this way. So this is very clearly not a Christmas. This is a birthday box, but could certainly be made as a Christmas box. What else have I got in here? You get the idea. And up above on a shelf over there, I probably have like 50 more of these projects. This is another, This is another lipstick or lip gloss box that is going to just hold kind of a typical lipstick. I usually have some in here. So that type of lipstick. Just the regular lipstick that comes in a turn-up box. I keep different lipsticks in here depending on what I'm wearing in case I forget to put it on, or if I ate dinner before and it all came off. This is a top hat, a stovepipe hat, whatever you want to call it. Looks like it's starting to come apart a little bit. And you could fill that with all kinds of candy and put one of these by each place at Christmas time. I think this is probably where this came from, so that this covered up maybe that spot where there's a little gap. I don't know, but the glue wore off, so I have to re-glue it. But that's another cute thing to put at a table setting and have everybody at the table get one of your gifts. There's probably more stuff in there if I keep digging through here, but I won't. But I just wanted you to see all the treasures that you could find just by searching in this group. You will get the dimensions, and if for some reason there's something in there that I didn't get the dimensions in there and you can't find them, then just send me a message and I'll get the dimensions to you, because I have probably 90% of them in a book that I keep with all of those things, all of those recipes. I call them card recipes and whatnot. So there we go. So that was the Rustic Countdown Kit, which can be used for so much more, as you saw. And you can watch me, for the next 10 days, you can watch me every night at 7 p.m. here at Roberta's. No. Oh my gosh, I had the name down pat now 2 nights in a row. I've said it wrong. At 11 Lakes Stamper Creatives. You can find me there. And you can place an order with me here if you're interested. But starting tomorrow, no more kits, no more talk of sales and stuff. I will let you know what products I'm using because people are interested. But other than that, we're just going to be doing other homemade projects. And I haven't narrowed tomorrow's down. I've got my list. I just haven't decided which I'm doing when. All right, so I'll see you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And thank you very much for joining me.